What's going on, guys? And we're back with the Davis Sports Feud, and I got my buddy Corey Sparks here. How we doing today?
Pretty good. How about yourself?
I mean, I've been better.
Yeah.
Last night was heart-wrenching.
That's
I mean, we can do a quick review of the playoffs, how we got here. I mean, the Bucks had a really rocky road here. They cruised past the Heat, easily sweeping them. They ran up against the Nets team that nobody thought they were going to get past. And then there were some key injuries in that series, which I feel like this whole entire episode is going to revolve around injuries. And I really don't like that, but it is a reality. James Harden went down in the first 20 seconds of that game. Kyrie Irving goes down in, I believe, game 3. And then you have an absolute instant classic game 7 between the Nets. Basically, Kevin Durant and Giannis Antetokounmpo dueling, which ended with Giannis and the Bucks and Chris Middleton getting over the hump with Brooklyn and onto the Atlanta Hawks. And that's the series they're at now. And the Hawks didn't have exactly the easiest road either. They had to go through a Knicks team that was really starting to crank on all cylinders, but they ended up handling them pretty easily. Then going up against the 1 seed, which I, from the get-go, thought it was kind of a pretender for a 1 seed just from the get-go, because you never know what you're going to get out of Ben Simmons. And lo and behold, now he's on the trade block after being absolutely terrified to take a shot at the end of that game. And then they're up against the Bucks now. And we'll start there. The Eastern Conference Finals had gotten underway. Game 1 was a nip and tuck game. I feel like the Bucks left this game on the floor and just they let it get out of hand, and they kept going back and forth. And at the end, they just came up flat and ended up just giving away a couple last minute possessions and ended up dropping game 1. Now, game 2, they basically decided that, hey, we are so much better than you, and we're going to prove it, and came out and absolutely ran them off the floor. Then you fast forward to game 3, and this is the integral Trae Young game where Trae Young gets injured on the referee that was standing there just minding his own business. He was just standing there. He wasn't even moving. And then I was reading on Twitter that people were losing their minds.
I knew that was going to happen.
Oh, me too. But,
you know, the ref paid. Yeah, no.
The ref got paid to stand right there. But if you rewatch that, there was no reason Trae Young had to take like that far of a step back to get back down court. He wasn't getting back into the play anyway. I think it was a fast break, and he just wasn't going to be a part of that play. But at the end of the day, that was another duel that came down to Chris Middleton literally outscoring the Atlanta Hawks in the fourth quarter with a ridiculous game. And now I'm going to kind of open up the floor to you. You watched game 4. You watched game 4 last night, correct?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that first half? I don't want to talk about the elephant in the room quite yet. Just
right. I'll swerve around that. So first, I want to give some credit to the Hawks because, the point that you brought up, their road to the Bucks to the Eastern Conference Finals. I wasn't very impressed. The Knicks, Tom Thibodeau. I think he deserved Coach of the Year. I think Monty Williams should have been a worthy candidate as well as he was. But that's an inexperienced team that hasn't seen the playoffs since Melo in 2013, 2014. Then they go up against the 76ers. I'm sorry, neither 1 seed was really a 1 seed this year. The Jazz have never really been taken into deep waters in recent memory, and the 76ers are usually a first-round stepping stone, as they were last year in the bubble against the Celtics. They just had a really good regular season. Ben Simmons is now going who knows where. But to answer your question, in game 4, what I saw, I don't want to say they underestimated how the Hawks were going to play, but I did expect them to adjust to how they were playing after the first half. Lou Williams is a much more conventional point guard. He's older. I can't recall his age off the top of my head, but he's in his low to mid 30s, definitely older than Trae Young, who's just in his 3rd or 4th year. But I did not expect for them to continue to blow out the Bucks. And even if Giannis stayed in there, they weren't playing team basketball. The Bucks are the most hot and cold team I've ever seen, and I have to think it starts either Giannis or Middleton. Middleton will either show up and act like an absolute Olympian, and I've said this before. He'll either be an Olympian and flirt with his career high, which is 50, or he'll go 6 for 23. And unfortunately, in game 4, the latter happened. He actually did have a decent game in game 3, ironically, after I said he never has a decent game in the middle, or he scored 15. He heard me. But in all honesty, I think Lou Williams was kind of using the same thing that Trae Young does, where he gets a high screen up there and he gets down, but the difference between Lou Williams and Trae Young is Lou Williams is a lot more conventional. He's not going to play iso ball. He's going to swing it around. Not going to draw as many double teams, so you're going to see a lot more swinging in the corners, but goodness sakes, they have Huerter, they have Gallinari, they have Trae Young who can shoot threes, and he's going to be back soon. And then they have Collins and Capella inside who have been really good rim protectors, and they've both been catching lobs. I think with Lou Williams, you just saw the ball get spread out a lot more. The play style with Trae Young is he's going to take over and he's going to force you to an ultimatum. He's going to take Drew Holiday on a high screen, and he's either going to get his preferred matchup, he's going to step back and make Drew Holiday miss because he got space there, or he's going to drive, draw like $3 and then kick it out. And Lou Williams doesn't do that. Lou Williams swings it, and that's why you saw, I think, 4-ish Hawks. I'll have to go back and look. Scoring the double digits. They looked a lot more even. They were using their shooters and
7.
Yeah, even before. I like it.
Yeah,
I like it. I want to believe that.
Gallinari had 10. Reddish had 12. Huerter had 15. Bogdanovich had 20. Lou Will had 21 with your leading scorer, and Clint Capella had 15. Which, little off topic, I'm getting ahead of myself. Why was he in the game when he got elbowed in the face?
Yeah, that's a really good question. That team is so deep, you got to wonder. But
really? But I think this is classic Bud being Bud. And you watch a lot of those plays that they were drawing up, that Bud was drawing up for the Bucks in the first half. There was no ball movement. It wasn't Giannis on the block or like moving to the basket or anything like he was starting to dominate in game 3. And it just, it didn't seem like they wanted to win this game. They really didn't. Giannis came out flat, and even he never got it going. He had 14 points on 7 for 10, and he only played in a half, but he wasn't attacking the basket like he was in the previous 2 games. And it just seemed like no one really cared about this game, which is a little concerning considering you can get past the Hawks and you could have a rest, because I believe the finals are no matter what set for next week, Thursday to start. If I'm not mistaken, I might be off on that, but
I think they do build it up. Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm looking at the final box score, and you get 14 from Giannis, albeit that he only played in 3.5 quarters. Brook Lopez gave you 7. Chris Middleton, 16. And Drew Holiday is your leading scorer with 19. And then you have a bunch of people flirting with like 5, 6, 2, 3. I don't get it. I don't know why they don't move the ball more. Like there's a couple possessions a game where they truly move the ball a lot. And they get good shots, and they get good shots at the basket. This team, as much as the motto for the Milwaukee Bucks was "let it fly," this is not a "let it fly" team anymore. Mm-hmm. They win these. They've won these games against the Nets and the Hawks by outscoring them in the paint by a lot. And they should. And this is the first game in the series that the Hawks outscored the Bucks in the paint. I don't understand what happened. Now let's get to the elephant in the room. In the middle of the third quarter, Giannis was contesting an alley-oop from Clint Capella and ended up landing awkwardly. And I remember what I was doing. I was sitting in the bar taking a sip of a drink, and all of a sudden I saw him go down, and I'm like, oh no. And then I saw the replay, and I was like, no. And then like the second replay rolled around, and then everybody else in the bar realized, and it was just a collective, oh my God. And watching that play and realizing that your season could be over, just imagine how many different people, how many different teams have experienced that oh my God moment this year. And now the quote unquote, I would call them the healthiest team that was left standing in the Milwaukee Bucks is just they're now without their superstar MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo, and it looked grim up until like 3:30 today, and they said there was no ligament damage, but there is a possibility that he could miss up to 2 weeks. He could come back as early as game 6, I've heard, so, and everything in between. But just like it says on the screen, Corey, what does the Giannis injury mean for the Bucks?
I think it's going to be more psychological than anything. Like you said, this team got out of their identity. It's not let it fly anymore. You have a huge size advantage no matter what the 5-on-5 matchup is on the floor. You can't play small ball against the Hawks. I mean, there are a bunch of 6'9", 6'10", and below guys running around there. When you have Brook Lopez, Bobby Portis, Giannis Antetokounmpo, I could go on and on and on. You're bigger than them. So you need to play them inside. It started with Giannis. Even before he got hurt, he's popping up threes and airballing them. Obviously, the free throw thing is a whole different thing, but they need to understand their identity. There is nothing wrong. I know it's the day of the three, but bully them over and over and over, and you'll be fine. Trae Young, their leading three-point shooter in terms of quantity, at least. I'm not sure about percentages because they got some sharpshooters in there, and Huerter and Bogdan, is out. Bully them. I think that Holiday didn't really do the best on Lou Williams. He was extremely efficient, and we'll talk about that a little later, I'm sure, in terms of them they're still getting caught in screens. I don't know what it is. I want to chop it down to just calling out screens before they happen because it looks like Holiday's getting hit by a truck when he runs into the screen, and Lou Williams is not going to cook you like Trae Young, but look how efficient he was. He was 6 for 6 halfway through the third. In terms of what the Giannis injury means for the Bucks, they need to stick to their identity. They need to swing it to the open man, get a back door, bully them down low because you are able to. Don't play timid. And I think they can be fine. But judging by what I saw just in that quarter and a half without Giannis, it got uglier. The Bucks without Giannis are not holding it together as well as the Hawks were without Trae Young. Lou Williams was able to fill in there.
So I will stop you on that point. I don't think that they weren't like mending or meshing or anything. They just didn't look like they recovered from when Giannis went down. Like their morale, normally they have all of the energy in the world. You have Thanasis jumping up and down on the bench. You normally have all your hype guys going crazy. There was none of that. No. And it wasn't because they were losing by a lot. It's because their superstar just went down. And I think this is why this is going to be a big reason for Game 5. Like we have now realized that it's doubtful that Giannis is going to play in Game 5. I think they need to stroll out this beautiful starting lineup that I've come up with Jrue Holiday, Chris Middleton, Bobby Portis, PJ Tucker, and Brook Lopez. And I think your final rotation piece, and not many people know this name because you only see him in garbage time, Jordan Nwora needs to start playing in these games. When you were playing in regular season games, he was lighting it up. In the G League, he was also lighting it up. Why not give him a shot? I understand that Bud is so cut and dry with his rotations, but Jeff Teague isn't getting it done. He just isn't. No matter how many minutes you play him, he's not going to get it done. Bryn Forbes is a 3-point marksman, and that's what he is. We know what he is. You're obviously going to promote Bobby Portis. You have to. I don't know who else you would put in that starting lineup other than Bobby Portis. That's another high energy. I love him off the bench, but he needed to play more minutes. He played 21 in this last game, but a lot of them was in that garbage time where it was over. He is your hype guy. He always has had your hype guy. Pat Connaughton was another one of those like scrapping players, but I don't. He's had such a bad postseason that you can't promote him to the starting lineup. But to combat the Atlanta Hawks, I think they need to stick to more of like that switching over ball screens instead of like trying to fight through. They were doing it for they can't decide whether they want to switch or go over ball screens. It just doesn't make sense how many different times. And I think there's becoming miscommunications, especially it was noticeable in Game 1 and Game 3 before Trae went down. Now, how do you guard all of these shooters? It's very simple. They're going to shoot their shots, but you just have to at least make it difficult. They use ball movement and ball screens and they try and not, sometimes they use ball movement, but for the most part, it's a damn near ISO ball. Like everybody's trying to be Trae. Lou Williams, on the other hand, like you mentioned, and I believe Trae Young is probably going to start in Game 5, so I don't think this is going to matter. You're not going to see Lou Will starting again. Right. He's more of that smart man, want to get the ball to the person because he's not as athletic as he used to be. He's a little bit older now. He's a little bit smarter with the ball. But as an all-around team, the Bucks are better than the Hawks. Just flat out. If Trae Young doesn't play, the two best players who are on both of these teams both play for the Milwaukee Bucks, and that's Jrue Holiday and Chris Middleton. And if you throw Trae Young in there, I believe Trae Young is better than Chris Middleton, unless Chris Middleton has one of his cash days.
Right.
So basically what I think they have to do is get back to team ball. The Giannis injury is devastating if we were facing the 76ers or if we were facing Brooklyn still. It's the Atlanta Hawks. They're still a young team. I still think the moment's going to get to them, and I truly think the Milwaukee Bucks can pull out at least Game 5. If they can win Game 5, the pressure's off of Giannis. He does not need to come. He doesn't even need to travel to Atlanta. stay home, relax with your babies, and just get better for game 7 if it's even needed.
Right.
I think the Bucks could still win this in 6. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think the Hawks have a chance in this? Well, not a chance. Do you think the Bucks have a chance, or do you think the Hawks can truly just finish this series?
So I actually put a video up saying, like, if Giannis is 100% confirmed to be out of this series, I was going to give a small edge to the Hawks just because the Bucks don't like to play with their identity once Giannis goes. I mean, we've been talking about this before. I love your lineup, one, because Portis is super efficient with the exception of the last game where he went 3 for 7. He's making use of his minutes. A couple of my friends want him swapped out with Lopez, but that kind of pulls the whole beat them with your big men mentality. So why not have them both in there? If Portis is a 3, I don't care who's in there for them. He's bullying them. You put Tucker in at 4, you put Lopez in at 5, or swap them interchangeably, and you have a solid lineup that's playing to their identity. I think it's a toss-up right now. Honestly, in a perfect world, the Bucks would win Game 5, like you said, and they can at least buy Giannis some time. But if the Bucks lose Game 5, I mean, I think they're going to throw Giannis in there no matter what he's at percentage-wise because nothing is torn. There's no ligament damage, no fractures, nothing like that. So, I mean, I think the big thing is this team they got to hope that Chris Middleton has the hot hand in Game 5, and they have to play to their identity. They have to bully them inside, and they're going to have to take it from there. It's very doable. Like you said, this is an extremely young team. I like the move when they had Rajon Rondo at the beginning because I was like, oh, okay, there's an on-court coach. You know, he's a less effective Chris Paul. He can be out there still calling the shots for them. But this team is young. All you have to do is play your identity, do what you do best, bully them down low. If you get an open shot, in my opinion, Holiday and Middleton are the only ones who should really be shooting unless Bryn Forbes gets thrown in there too. But I think they have a shot. I think it is a direct toss-up right now, just depending on the status of Giannis because like you said before, the camaraderie of this team dipped so low the second they saw him leave because we all assumed the worst. Now we know the worst isn't here, but there's a lot up in the air. So this team's got to play with their identity, and they have to play as if he's going to be back the next game.
So whether Giannis plays or not, I think the Bucks can win this series. Just like I explained earlier, they are the more talented team. They don't have a deep bench, but they don't necessarily need a deep bench. They just need quality. They need quality 15 minutes off of their bench because Chris Middleton can get his. Jrue Holiday can get his if he's not exerting all of his effort on the defensive side of the ball. Because we saw that in the Brooklyn Nets series that he was using everything he had on the defensive side of the ball, so he didn't have much left. But luckily, he had Giannis and Chris Middleton to pick up that offensive slack. Now Giannis is gone. It's been Giannis and Chris Middleton this entire series. I'm not saying Jrue Holiday hasn't showed up because he has. He's been there. He's been playing defense very well, and he's averaging like between 15 and 20 points every game this series. So he's still there. He's still performing. He's just not up to what you expect as a number 3 on a big 3 team. But PJ Tucker gives you that defensive prowess. Brook Lopez, I don't know what to make of his career anymore. I really want him to turn back into a big man.
Yeah, everyone wants to play that stretch 5 where they just go out into the corner and sit, but you got to use your body.
Turn him back into DeAndre Ayton. Look at what DeAndre Ayton is doing in Phoenix. Brook, go back to being a big man. You're freaking huge.
Yeah,
you are huge. So honestly, in Game 5, well, let's just start with Game 5. I think the Bucks win this game. But I think it's going to be very close. I think this is going to be like a 3-point game. I think it's going to be one possession. I think it's going to come down to either Trae Young having to make a last-second shot or Chris Middleton having to make a last-second shot. And if it's up to Chris Middleton, you've seen him go off. Every time he puts that ball up in the fourth quarter, I think it's going in. So my money is on the Bucks for Game 5. What do you think?
I'm going to have to go with a close margin too, but I'm putting a lot of the pressure on Jrue Holiday. It looks like Trae Young's going to be back. It was just a bruise. Going into this series, I loved Jrue Holiday, and he had a great Game 1. I believe he put up 31, 32. He was the game high scorer other than Trae Young, obviously, who dropped 48. Trae Young is still a bottom 50 defender in the league. He's lazy, he's small, and Jrue Holiday can bully him, even though he is a 1, because he's a much bigger 1. He's a much taller 1 than him. I want to say Jrue Holiday's got a lot on his shoulders here. So I'm going to give the Bucks the win for Game 5 by 4 points. I think Jrue Holiday is going to have to get 25 plus for it to happen, though.
That's fair. Now, we talked about Giannis for an injury. I want to go off topic, and we'll talk about the Western Conference Finals in a minute, but I'll bring up the next question. We have so many injuries going on in the NBA playoffs this playoff season. We had LeBron lingered for a game or two. We had Anthony Davis go down. Kawhi Leonard's been out for the entire Western Conference Finals. You had Chris Paul with COVID. You had both James Harden and Kyrie Irving go down. Jamal Murray hasn't played at all during this entire playoff run. In your opinion, what is the most devastating injury of the 2021 playoffs?
So naturally, I wanted to go to Kawhi because that's one of the remaining teams, and he's their star player. But look, I'm not the biggest Paul George fan, but they have no business having already won 2 games in this series. Mm-hmm. They could lose in 6. They could lose tonight right after this podcast, and it would not matter to me because Ty Lue, I mean, he deserves the credit too. I'm not saying he did anything when LeBron was at that team, but I am saying he's making a lot of really good adjustments. He's allowing Paul George to play to his identity. He's hitting a lot of mid-range shots, which, by the way, the mid-range shot is just dead, I guess. I mean, everyone's hitting layups and threes, but there's a few guys out there, including Chris Paul, who are hitting the mid-range shot, and they're winning at it. So he's allowed Paul George to kind of find the soft spots in the paint and do that. But I can't say Kawhi because they're doing so good. I got to go with Jamal Murray. That team really held it together, even when Jokic was out in the last quarter of Game 4 when they got swept by the Suns. Suns have had some injuries too, though. I honestly think, especially with how young that team is, even though I love Chris Paul, I think they could have given the Suns some serious trouble. Do I think they could have beat them? No. But if Jamal Murray was there, I mean, there's really no way to tell. They didn't have him for a couple months. I think they would have made it a series. And if you get past the Suns and hypothetically they go up against this hobbling Clippers team, I would have taken the Nuggets, and they could have the stars aligned this year. I mean, no LeBron, no Curry out of the West. I think the Nuggets had a fighting chance to go really far if they had their entire team with them. Jamal Murray's not the MVP, obviously, which is Jokic, but he's the front runner of their offense when it comes to just calling the plays every time they go up the court. So I think that was a huge loss in my opinion.
Dang, I was really hoping you weren't going that direction. That's the direction I'm going. But I'm going to be honest, and this is Cisco is giving a good point. He's giving his opinion, and DiVincenzo is the biggest. I don't think it's the biggest, but I think it's definitely really up there because DiVincenzo going down really hurt the chemistry of our team, and you had to take up another bench piece, take off the bench another piece, and just try and piece the bench back together. But that's not the biggest injury. I'm going to give it 2 because they are on the same team. James Harden and Kyrie Irving is far and away the biggest injuries and the most devastating injuries. Now, did it open the door for the Bucks to make it where they did? Yes. But even with James Harden going down in the first game, within 20 seconds of it starting, Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant looked like they still could get it done in a 7-game series. They were well on their way. Without James Harden, they won Game 1. Without James Harden, they dominated in Game 2. And then Kyrie goes down. Then it turns into the Kevin Durant show. And then you're not going to stop Kevin Durant, clearly, because he still put up 40. He still put up 50. He still put up monster numbers. But if you had Kyrie for one of those games, it would have been no question. It would have been the Nets. We would not even be talking about Giannis getting hurt. We would be talking about, who's going to be the Milwaukee Bucks coach next year, because Bud would not be there. Right. But I truly feel like if James Harden did not get hurt, or Kyrie, you can plug and play whichever one you think. If 2 of those superstars were on the court, they would have flown past the Bucks, and they would have absolutely demolished the Atlanta Hawks, and they would have taken down whoever the hell came out of the West, and we'd be talking about the Nets hanging a banner for the first time in their franchise history. So injuries, I love and hate this playoffs because my team, the Bucks, are still in it, but it's made it very difficult to call this. Like, I've heard so many on different podcasts I listen to, so many people saying this is going to be like one of those asterisks championships. I was like, I don't care if the Bucks get a title. I'm going to be happy that the Bucks got a title.
The title's a title. What happened last year? I mean, everyone's calling that the Mickey Mouse Championship, but at the end of the day, the Lakers got their banner. So,
and it's cool to look back and realize that both teams out of the West have never won a title. Phoenix and LA, the Clippers. Milwaukee hasn't won since don't fact check me. It's 71. I think it is 71 with Oscar Robertson and Lou Alcindor eventually turns into Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And the Atlanta Hawks haven't won since what, the 50s, the 60s? It's ridiculous. It's going to be cool to see us crown a title for somebody who hasn't won in forever. So that'll be cool. And it's also the first finals that won't include LeBron James, Steph Curry, Tim Duncan, or Dwayne Wade in the last, I want to say 25 years, which is absolutely insane that you have 4 players every single year for the last 25 years in the finals.
It's a congealed dynasty. I mean, if one didn't make it, one of the other ones would.
So we can't just ignore the other teams, the other 2 teams in here. I know I'm a big Milwaukee Bucks fan, so I knew I was going to talk about them for a long time. But there is another series going on, and I don't understand how it's still going on, but it's still going on. The LA Clippers are down 2-3. They are in LA. I think they have a fighter's chance in this game, but they need Paul George to show up again, and they need Reggie Jackson to be, in all honesty, the best point guard left standing outside of Trae Young, who's hurt. So the healthy point guard, I think he's the best one left standing. And that's saying that I'm saying he's better than Chris Paul right now. I don't know. I think the Clippers will win tonight, and I think it's going to be on the backs of Paul George and Reggie Jackson. And just the fact that it's incredible that they're coming back in this series, and they're basically tinkering with their lineups literally every single night. They're trotting out a different starting 5. Their bench is coming off different. They're playing Luke Kennard. They're playing Boogie Cousins. They're doing all of these weird things. But at the end of the day, I still think Phoenix takes it in game 7. But do you think Phoenix wins tonight, or do you think Phoenix wins what is that, on Friday?
I think it ends tonight. I think you look at DeAndre Ayton, he still got his double-double, 10 and 11, but he was more controlled. Like you said, they were throwing a lot of different looks at them. They were throwing Boogie Cousins in there, lots of different people to try and bully him out of the paint, because everything starts at the rebound. If you're able to dominate with rebounds, you're going to win at least 70% of the time. Ooh, Clippers in 7. Interesting. But I do have to give a lot of credit to Reggie Jackson. I think the switches are going to be the big thing. I want a lot of people to beat through their screens, because everyone saw the play 2 days ago where Chris Paul was crossed up, definitely pushed by Paul George, but everything's a push these days, and then sent through the window in the State Farm commercial that everyone decided to make with that. You can't have that on there. I'm sorry. Chris Paul cannot guard Paul George. He's a phenomenal player, but he's definitely older, and he should be guarding 1s and maybe 2s at the most, but he can't be guarding Paul George when he's taking over the game. Got to get somebody else on him. If everyone sticks, Booker has an efficient game, and Ayton can dominate down low. I think Ayton is going to be the key here. He just needs to be a bully they're probably going to put him in there for 40 minutes again. I have the Suns. It's going to be narrow. Reggie Jackson has been extremely efficient. Can't ignore that. Paul George has gone takeover mode. He completely forgot how to choke pretty much for the entirety of this series, except for those 2 free throws. I will.
Okay. All right.
Yep. I will hold him accountable for that. But just for the Clippers to be here, I have to admire it. With that being said, I think Chris Paul is going to take his trip and a bunch of these young guys to the finals after tonight.
So honestly, the Clippers, if you look at a couple points in a couple of these games, the Clippers should at the very least be up 3-2 right now. Some missed free throws, the Valley oop, or whatever you want to call it, the Ayton oop, whatever you want to call it. There's so many reasons why the Clippers should be up, but we don't live in should be world. We're in reality. They're down 3-2. It's going to be tough for the Clippers to win tonight, but I think they have an opportunity, and I think it's going to come from their bench. And that sounds really weird to say, because their bench has been swapped, moved, adjusted damn near every single game. And both teams are coming off of one of their worst performances in a playoff game of 84 and 80. Excuse me. They're what you're bringing out of the Suns. I think they're going too deep into their bench, bringing Cam Johnson, Nader in, and Torrey Craig. I think you could run with your starting 5, and you can get away with Saric and Cam Payne. If you want to throw Cam Johnson out there, I'm okay with that too. But I feel like if the Suns are going to win tonight, Cam Payne's going to have to show up again, because what you're going to get out of DeAndre Ayton. Like you said, you're going to get at least double-digit rebounds. He's a bully. He's going to get to the block. He's probably going to score about 20. Chris Paul's going to be dishing just like he always is, and he's going to be flopping just like he always is. And then you need to look at the end of the day, is Devin Booker going to show up? He has
Right.
had games where he can drop 40. He's also had games. I don't want to call him Chris Middleton because I think that might be a little bit of not an insult, but like a little bit of a stab. Because Devin Booker is a streaky superstar, but he's not at the level. And I had this diehard argument at the bar last night with somebody saying that Devin Booker is top 10. And I disagree, but I think he's top 15, top 20. I can only name so many names before you have to mention Devin Booker. But on the other side of the court, which we have already been told that Kawhi Leonard is not going to play in this series, the rest of the Western Conference Finals, he is not playing.
Right.
So do we get a game from Terrence Mann? Do we get a game from Reggie Jackson? Is Ivica Zubac at least going to slow down DeAndre Ayton? I don't think that's going to be a very viable option. But the way the Clippers play is very, very a little more fast paced. But the Phoenix Suns love to run outside of Chris Paul because Chris Paul is a little older and he doesn't want to run as much. At the end of the day, I think the Clippers eke out a win in this game, but they're going to lose back in Phoenix in Game 7. So
it's more of a matter of like when, not so much if. Valiant effort by them. They shouldn't even be here. But I think the Suns are going to close out. It's just a matter of when.
So my last question and our last topic, I might have another one just because I feel like shaking it up every once in a while, and I haven't talked football in a long time. But the last question for basketball is going to be on the screen right now. And I'm not saying like just don't put the Phoenix Suns because they're winning. What is the biggest surprise of the playoffs this year? Is it Golden State not making it? Is it LA getting knocked down the first round? What do you think?
Ooh.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
I'm bouncing in between two, but I really don't want to discredit the Bucks because they played a phenomenal series. I didn't expect the Heat to get swept, but I'm going to have to say I really thought that, especially without Jamal Murray, I thought the Portland Trailblazers were at least going to come out of the first round. And now because they didn't, and we look at their track record and they're either first or second round exits, Dame Lillard might be testing the market. Like you're starting to see those jersey swaps. Not saying it's going to happen this year, but you got to think he's getting impatient. He said he's extremely loyal to this place, so that makes me think they have to bring somebody in. There has to be changes. He said he's not going anywhere. The injuries is a great one too, honestly. Just overall, seeing all the stars missing. I guess the Suns are the healthiest now, if we want to go there, or maybe the Hawks because they're down half a point guard. I would just go with the fact that I believe the Trailblazers were up 2-0 in that series. 2-0 or 2-1. I was like, you know what? No, they don't have Jamal Murray. Jokic is amazing, but they don't have a true point guard who's going to run it up there. Porter Jr. is going to get better, but he's not amazing yet. Tame to Boston. That'd be something.
Cisco's been preaching this for weeks.
Right. I'd have to go with that, though. It's not the loudest thing in the world, but I definitely, when I filled out my bracket, that's one that got cracked right away, and I thought it was for sure. I'm like, I'm sorry, the Nuggets should not be a 3 seed. They've been without Jamal Murray for about a month. I didn't want to call them pretenders, but I definitely thought Dame and CJ would drop a combined 60 every single night and would outshoot them. And that didn't happen the last 3 games of the series. So I wanted the Trailblazers to go a little further. I didn't think they were going to make it to the conference finals or even the finals, but I thought they'd get in the second round for sure. That was when I was making my picks, didn't think twice about that. It's like, no, they don't have Jamal Murray. Jokic can only do so much. They'll get outshot. And that didn't happen.
So you and I for the playoffs picked the 2 same teams to make it to the finals, which we both picked the Suns and the Bucks. Everybody called us ludicrous. Everybody called us this.
Lots of doubters out there. You're all quiet now.
Well, we got to get the Bucks over the hump, and we got to get them to the finals still. But nobody thought the Hawks was gonna make the finals or are gonna make the finals. I think a lot of people are like, well, without Giannis, I think the Hawks are probably gonna win because you had a lot of people saying that the Hawks were gonna win this series with Giannis, just because of the amount of scoring they can do. But when you go up against the Bucks, just like Brooklyn found out, you're not going to be able to score the ball very easily. We're one of the best defensive teams. Well, the Bucks are one of the best defensive teams in the entire league. Now, I do think that it is very close between the Hawks making the Eastern Conference Finals, and even though I picked the Suns to win that series, the Lakers going out in the first round. And like Chris had mentioned right here. This is the best playoffs in a long time. No superstars makes it a little more interesting. It does make it more interesting, but we do live in a world where the media wants to see the superstars on the court. And this is the year that everyone is hurt. Everyone left outside of the Suns, well, including the Suns, everyone who is left has dealt with an injury in some way, shape, or form. Trae Young got hurt in game 3. Giannis got hurt in game 4. Chris Paul was dealing with COVID. Devin Booker got punched in the mouth. He got a broken nose. And then you start going down the line of the teams that are out. Jamal Murray didn't play. Kawhi Leonard is still out. Anthony Davis got hurt. Like you can go down almost every single
LeBron
team in the
playing
playoffs.
on a bad ankle for like 2 weeks.
Yeah. So he does have a good point that injuries have really made it a very weird year and a very bad year because all of your superstars are hurt. I think I read somewhere that before Giannis got hurt, he was the only top 10 player in the league still playing.
Left. Yep.
Yeah. And now he's gone. So you're basically telling me that there are no top 10 players playing in the playoffs right now. Because I don't think Trae Young's a top 10 player.
No.
Devin Booker, in my opinion, is not a top 10 player. Tony, we'll have a talk. Trust me. That was the guy I was having a debate with at the bar last night. Who else is left? Chris Paul's not top 10 anymore.
No.
Paul George isn't top 10 in my opinion. He's close, but he's not because he's so consistent. Chris Middleton's not. I don't think he ever will be. I think he's going to be one of the better number 2s.
Yeah.
And if he's ever a number 3, he's the best number 3.
Mm-hmm.
But Drew Holiday doesn't sniff that. You don't have a top 10 player left until Giannis comes back or Kawhi. But I think the biggest surprise is just like Cisco said, I'll bring it back up. It's the injuries. Because if let's just say for shits and giggles, nobody got hurt in the playoffs this year. Who would we be looking at for the finals? We'd probably be looking at the Lakers and we'd probably be looking at the Nets.
Mm-hmm.
But injuries play a part in the playoffs, and it brought us the Hawks and the Bucks and the Suns and the Clippers, and I love every second of it.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, is it a surprise? But I'm not mad. I'm not mad at all. So I do have a question from one of our listeners.
Sure,
let's go with listeners. So Zach Zuba asks, "Who in your fantasy football league? Who are you taking first overall?" Last year, it was Christian McCaffrey with ease. I don't think it's as easy as just saying Christian McCaffrey this year. That's a tough question, actually, now that I'm thinking about it.
I've got some good candidates. D-Hop comes to mind right away. I can't pick a wide receiver number 1, though, especially with the age of like two-way running backs this year.
That's tough. I still think Christian McCaffrey is going to be towards the top of that, just because even when he was hurt, he was still putting up some serious numbers. I like Cisco's answer. Derrick Henry, that's a good one. Another good one. It all depends on if Aaron Rodgers plays or not. Is Aaron Jones?
I was going to say that is the two-way running back right now because CMC's been hurt for the last 2 years.
I would personally say Aaron Jones is going to be near or the top of that list. I think it's a lot more of a toss up, like because in years past you knew it was going to be Saquon Barkley, it was going to be CMC, it was going to be way back in the day Adrian Peterson every year,
right?
But all right, Cisco, calm down. Now he's saying Dak Prescott.
My dad would love that. He's a Cowboys fan, but
I love the questions. And then real quick, we're going to be doing over the summer, we're going to be doing a lot of division previews for the NFL. I do want a way too early Super Bowl prediction from you. Way too early Super Bowl prediction.
It honestly depends, but I'm going to have to go. Ooh. This is bold. I think a lot is wide open, but at the same time, some teams really, some teams are coming back. Obviously, who do the Chiefs just add? Kyle Long, and then they're pretty much the same. Other than that, they kind of swapped him out for Eric Fisher.
They just added a tackle, didn't they?
They also got a tackle as well. I believe they got Orlando Brown from the Ravens. Yeah, so they're building up. I'm gonna have to go with the Bucks. Still out of the NFC. I think they're way too strong, and I'm hoping for the sake of the rest of the NFL, I'm not a Tom Brady hater, that he walks off on this one. But I thought he was going to walk off this year. He won it in his house. I'm going to go with the Bucks out of the NFC, and then out of the AFC, I'm going to have to go with the Titans. I think Julio's going to take Julio's going to take a lot of attention off the rest of their weapons, and then you have Derrick Henry up the middle. Ryan Tannehill is more than just a game manager, in my opinion, although he has a really easy job because he has the most effective play-action game in the league with the best running back coming out of the backfield right now. So I'm going to go, and the Titans have a solid defense too, but I think their offense is just going to absolutely be electric with Julio being that second option. Yeah, I'm going to have to go with that. I think A.J. Brown and Julio are both going to have 1,000-yard seasons, so I'm going to go Titans and Bucks, and then the Bucks experience is just ridiculous. That team is a juggernaut, so I'm going to go Bucks winning it.
I don't think Tampa Bay is going to be there, in my opinion. I think we're going to finally find that cliff that Kellerman was talking about like 6 years ago. Of him, he's going to finally
Tom
find
Brady.
The cliff. Yeah, Tom Brady's finally going to find the cliff, and he's going to fall off.
Yep.
I have two teams, and they're both in the NFC West. I have first with my surprise pick. I think Seattle has a good shot this year. They really have improved offensively. They've added a lot of pieces defensively. They added a backup running back. I can't remember, but they improved somewhat on the offensive line. They picked up Gerald Everett at tight end. I think Russell Wilson finally is going to at least get an MVP vote this year.
Yeah.
So and then my second team is the Rams, and I'm going to catch a lot of Goff for this. Haha.
I like the Rams.
I think Stafford is really going to add a new dimension to this team. I think because you got to the Super Bowl with Jared Goff, and Jared Goff, in my opinion, is not even a top half of the league in quarterbacks. Matthew Stafford has been lighting up numbers. Granted, he hasn't been winning. He still lights up the scoreboard, and now he has a defense. He has one of the best defenses in the league. Jalen Ramsey, Aaron Donald, and the list goes on that defense. And now he has weapons that he can actually throw to, and a coach that actually knows what the hell he's doing.
Yeah.
And doesn't just randomly recycle running back after running back and then throw 5 running backs in the room for no reason. So out of the NFC, I have the Los Angeles Rams. In all honesty, I think it could be one of those two teams, but I'm gonna peg it with the Rams. And then in the AFC is a little tougher. I like your Titans pick. I like it a lot, but I think Buffalo is gonna climb over that hump this year.
A lot of people are saying that.
And I really think we're basically throwing the Chiefs to the side, which I know a lot of people are going to say when I start talking about this in upcoming podcasts, when more of the football fans start coming around to the podcast. The Chiefs are going to be good. They're always good. But it's very difficult to get to the Super Bowl every year. And I think Buffalo just has the tools. They have the better defense by a mile. They have a really good running back, and they have arguably a top 5 quarterback in the league in Josh Allen. And they got
Stephon Diggs, who's probably, in my opinion, hot take here, he's a fringe top 10 at wide receiver. He had a phenomenal year.
I like that. I can probably name 5 people that might be better, but I like it.
Yeah, no, top 10, not top 5.
Okay, yeah. Top 10's fine. I can live with top 10. I'm okay with top 10. So I have... Oh, God, I just lost what I said. Oh, Bills and Rams. Holy crap, that would be an amazing matchup, though. That would be so much fun to watch. Sean McVay against, what's the coach over there in Buffalo?
Oh, McDermott. Sean McDermott.
And then just imagine all of the Bills fans at the Super Bowl jumping through tables and...
trying not to go 0-5 in the Super Bowl.
Oh, God.
Because they won 4 in a row before. I don't mean to bring that up, but...
We've been shooting for about 45 minutes now. I want to thank you. I sprung this on you at the last second and basically threw together an episode in like 5 hours, and I think it went pretty well. We had a lot of topics. We had so much interaction from our fans, and I think it was really good. Thank you again for coming on, Corey. And if you want to plug your show real quick or your stream, or go ahead.
Yeah, always. It's All Sports Now. That's a sports podcast that I run where we pretty much do the same concept that we're doing here, and then we're doing some gaming stuff on YouTube as well. So just look up All Sports Now on any streaming platform, podcast platform, or YouTube, and yeah, give it a follow. But thanks for the shout out, Kyle.
Oh, of course. And thanks again, Corey. For the Davis Sports Dude, I'm Kyle Davis, and this is Corey Sparks. I'm signing off. You guys enjoy your day and enjoy the Phoenix Suns and Los Angeles Clippers tonight. I'll talk to you guys soon.